Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm joined today by members of the Bermuda Lawn Tennis Association. I'd like for them to introduce themselves.
David Lambert, President of the Bermuda Lawn Tennis Association Pro Registry.
And Mike Wolf, President of the BLTA.
So before I start, let me just make a few comments about a matter that involved a message that was circulating regarding a former employee of Bermuda Broadcasting, Mr. Davies, who it was alleged was now going to be working at the Royal Gazette. Mr. Davies had a work permit issued in 2017 by Michael Fay for 3 years, for 2020. He apparently has resigned his post and is not working at the Royal Gazette. It was complete falsehood to have that circulated in the media. And so no work permit was issued for him to be employed at the Royal Gazette. That's just to set the record straight. Now, ultimately... Sorry?
Has there been an application?
No such application has been submitted. So today I'll be addressing the two topics regarding the Department of Immigration, the English-speaking work permit policy, and the referral of work permit applications for tennis personnel to the Bermuda Lawn Tennis Association. In order to provide greater assurance that Bermudians who work in the sport of tennis are given fair opportunities for gainful employment in Bermuda, the Department of Immigration has introduced a new process of referring work permit applications for tennis personnel to the Bermuda Lawn Tennis Association, BLTA. This means that going forward, employers must send a copy of the work permit application with all supporting documentation to the BLTA at the same time they submit the work permit application to the Department of Immigration. The BLTA must provide a written response to employers within 10 working days from the date of the application is referred to them. Employers must submit the response to the Department of Immigration. If a response is not provided within the time frame, then employers must provide formal written notification to the Department of Immigration to advise that no response was received, including all relevant details relating to the referral, i.e. the name of the prospective work permit holder, job title, and the date of referral to the BLTA. The minister can exercise discretion over the response from the BLTA, i.e. he may or may not agree with the response. It should be noted that the referral process will cause the Department of Immigration's processing time to be extended. Contact details for the BLTA are email address mwolf@blta.bm and info@blta.bm, and the phone number is 296-0834. That's the essence of the new policy regarding referrals of tennis professionals to the BLTA. I believe Mr. Wolf's going to make a comment.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister Brown. Good afternoon. On behalf of the BLTA and the Pro Registry, I'd like to say thank you very much to the Ministry and Minister for this new policy. We are quite pleased with the outcome of several months of cooperative effort, and we see this as a win for tennis, in particular our local pros. As mentioned, with regard to the formalization of this agreement, we now see this as a means for ensuring that our local pros have a fair method of ensuring placement at local tennis facilities. Again, we know there's more work to be done, but we're looking forward to working with government on this process, and we certainly see it as a positive way forward. I'll now hand it over to Mr. David Lambert.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon to Minister Brown and your entire team. Good afternoon, and thank you. We have our monthly meeting after this meeting, and our members will be informed of the steps and policy that Minister Brown has mentioned. And thanks for attending the meeting last month when we had talked quite a bit about this. Many of our members have represented Bermuda since the age of 12 and continue to represent Bermuda internationally right up to Fed Cup and Davis Cup level. Many of them also have played collegiate tennis. Now they're back in Bermuda teaching tennis Most of them are certified in the IETF syllabus, PTR syllabus, and USTA syllabus. President Wolf is currently finalizing an IETF Level 2 course to be held in Bermuda early next year. This represents a continued desire for our coaches to stay current with the development of tennis. Our pro members are able to offer programs for all levels, whether it's the age of 3 being their first exposure to tennis or up to the age of 83 when they want to find their former level of play. This means that we can offer programs for all levels. We actually have a program that will be coming out, will be released soon, titled Your Neighborhood Tennis Pro. So we'll bring you up to date on that in the near future. Again, Minister Brown and your entire team, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. So now I will move on to the next topic, which you're all keen to hear about, I'm sure, regarding the English-speaking policy. The English-speaking work permit policy, currently out for consultation, seeks to ensure that foreign nationals hired by employers to work in serving positions, whether it's in a restaurant, a hotel, a rest home, can communicate effectively in English. Also, it is dangerous, for example, to have a non-English speaking employed in a job where one has to read prescriptions or the labels of dangerous chemicals. It is for those reasons that the Department of Immigration is seeking to put into effect the English-speaking work permit policy. The job categories that are being targeted by the new policy are those in industries where the job holder interacts with the public and or in jobs where lives could be threatened if the person cannot speak or read English, namely the restaurant, food service, and hotel workers, such as cleaners, housemen, room attendants, pot washers, cook, chef, waiter, food and beverage server, maitre d', kitchen porter, counter person, and counter chef. Health professionals, including but not limited to physicians, pharmacists, nursing aide, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, radiologist, technician, social worker, and caregivers in nursing homes, nursemaid, nanny, child, caregiver, caregivers of geriatric employers, and patients in nursing homes. For workers from countries where English is not the first language, a condition will be placed on the work permit under this new policy, stating that applicant must provide evidence he or she has successfully passed an English as a second language program. The employer will be required to show evidence that the applicant has successfully passed an English as a second language program by submitting the document with the work permit application. Under this policy, the Department of Immigration would investigate complaints from members of the general public that work permit holders cannot speak or understand English. In circumstances where the individual is already working in Bermuda and where a complaint is lodged against him or her, he or she will be brought into the Department of Immigration and given an English language test. If the test results indicate that the person is deficient in the understanding of or ability to speak English, i.e. they failed the test, the employer and employee will be advised that the minister is considering revoking the work permit. Both parties will be given 14 days to provide a written response as to why the minister should not revoke the work permit. If the language test results indicate that the person is proficient in their understanding of and ability to speak English, i.e. they pass the test, they will be allowed to continue to reside and work in Bermuda for the duration of their work permit. In this case, the Department of Immigration reserves the right to recall the work permit holder for retesting at any time. As mentioned earlier, the English-speaking work permit policy is in circulation to key stakeholders for consultation purposes. The deadline for feedback is October 12, 2018. Depending on the extent of the feedback we can expect that this policy will be implemented by October 19, 2018. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions from the lady? Mr. Mike, please.
Minister, I'm just curious as to the background behind the BLTA, the new process for tennis pros. Two questions. Why is it being implemented? Has there been problems in the past? And secondly, is this sort of thing going to be extended to other sporting groups?
Well, it came about because some challenges with some work permits that were issued to tennis professionals. And so myself and the BLTA had a long dialogue, and we came up with this as a solution. It is not being contemplated to be extended to other professions as yet. It just depends on how things evolve, but it may well be extended.
Okay. Regarding the English language proficiency, you mentioned the testing process. Is there any discussion as to who will pay for the testing process, the people who apply for the work permit or the government?
The testing process, you mean the English as a second language proficiency?
No, you said that if an employee is already on the island,
Oh, right.
There will be a testing process on the
Right,
island.
that'll be covered by the government.
All right. Now, the other step that I mentioned in the draft thing that we've seen is people being stopped at the airport if they're coming into the island, first-time work permit, if the customs officer has issues with their language skills. Is there going to be any specific training for the customs officers in that regard?
Yes, there will certainly be training undertaken to ensure that there's a process that they have to undertake when assessing the individual.
Now, given that obviously there are a variety of accents, is there a possibility that that training will sort of cover that issue? I mean, I know people in England who speak perfect English, but I can't understand a word they say because it's a very strong regional dialect.
Right. Well, accent is quite different than English proficiency. So there's a sharp distinction between the two. And the customs officials, immigration official will be aware of that distinction. So there will be no confusing of an accent with a language proficiency.
And the other thing that mentioned of when complaints get risen and are taken to the local testing process, the government has the right to retest them later on if continued complaints arise, I'm assuming. Do you feel that that perhaps opens the door for harassment of people who perhaps just might not speak English or might speak English with a strong accent?
I don't think it opens the door to harassment. I think that we will look at all these matters very carefully and make assessments as we go forward. We will be very careful in how we process these applications.
And how's the consultation process going right now?
Well, it just went out last week, so we expect to get feedback from interested parties in due course. And we're looking forward to getting those responses.
And is there any update for the comprehensive immigration reform policies?
That's working on. We're working on that. We have come to a position on a number of key issues involving mixed status families, and we will be unveiling that in due course in the next, I would say, few weeks.
Further questions?
Can I ask you a question, Minister? Can I ask a question, Minister? Not to do with this topic, but to do with the immigration issue. You have individuals that come here under one specific work permit, and then they transfer to another employer. What is the policy on that?
The policy is that when you come to Bermuda on a work permit, you're required to stay with that employer for the first 2 years. You're not allowed to transfer employers in the first 2 years. After 2 years, you're free to move about.
And one more, it's an individual that just been working at the police headquarters, working in a special branch. Has she obtained a work permit for this position?
But clearly, she would need a work permit in order to work in Bermuda.
Are you aware of this issue?
No, I'm not aware of it. I was not aware of it in lead up to it. I am aware of it now.
And does she have a work permit?
Clearly, she has a work permit.